Here we are, and we're live. evening, one and all. Welcome to another Wednesday live stream. Welcome, good evening. Have a sit down, pull up a chair. Pull up a chair, make yourself comfortable because, like most people today, we were not expecting a reshuffle. As far as I was aware, no one expected this. No one saw it coming. And the question we are going to ask definitely later on, when we've done a bit of a preamp, getting more people in, we'll talk about the potential why that might be. We'll go through all of this because it could be very, very interesting indeed. Sort of the repercussions and what this reshuffle could mean potentially for the future as well, because this does open a lot of very, shall we say, interesting doors. But anyway, let's have some hellos in chat. Alexander Alexander's in chat. Conservators in chat. Cyrus Le Cheron's in chat. Ingrid, Dr. Gerstner, hello from Austria. Nuzdali, hello to you. Henk, good evening to you. Dude, can you be Prime Minister? Well, you're probably better than Boris Johnson at this point. So yes, good evening, one and all. Hope you are going to have a fantastic evening. And like I say, this is going to be interesting. Paul San Guillermo, greetings from LA, the left coast. Well, as they say, left coast is best coast. So good morning to you, Paul. I think that may be the case over in your side of the world. Kirsten Cruz, evening to you all. Taking a break from the woodworking channel. Well, I hope your whittling goes all right. But yes, still the AM. Excellent. Thought that might be the case. Well, like I say, we've got the left coast backing us, so we shall plow on into today's events, because no one saw this coming. Chatty Rat, good evening from the Irish East Coast. Good evening to you. They're taking a break from the Jinder Island saga. I must admit, I've nipped in and out and seen them do various things, but I haven't stayed long enough. So I presume everything's going all right. I know they had a thunderstorm not too long ago. Maybe we'll check up on them in a bit. Maybe we'll check up on them. We'll see how long this goes on for. Like I say, today's main events, obviously, going all through this timeline, might take the whole video. I'm not sure, but like I say, this does indeed cause some very interesting scenarios potentially for the future, and we'll go through one of those now. So, like I say, no one saw this coming, and we'll get into the tweets later. Stephen, greetings from Spain. Good evening to you. Or hola. Or ¿Cómo están? No, that's not Spanish. Is it Spanish? I don't know. But yeah, no one saw this reshuffle coming. No one expected a reshuffle. It was a rumor which very, very quickly became reality. So the big question is why? Why now of all this time? Why get rid of some of these people? And as we're going to get into it, some of the people are obvious that they, shall we say, got rid of. Some people have received a promotion. Some people have received a demotion. Don't worry, we'll get into it. And some people have been, well and truly, shall we say, dumped from the cabinet. And the thing that this comes up to is that just very recently we had the very, very first poll loss for Boris Johnson and his cabinet, and indeed the Conservatives, since January. They are down by about 5 points, which is in our political terms, is quite a severe loss in the polls. So a lot of thought, obviously, around this reshuffle is an attempt to try and essentially regain the lead in these polls, because a lot of what we are also hearing, especially in the, shall we say, the Toryverse, if you want to call it the Toryverse, in the Tory sphere of things, they are talking about heavily talking about the potentiality of an early election. So it makes sense. Get rid of, shall we say, the most inconvenient members of the cabinet and replace them with new people. Makes sense. The other thing, of course, is that the autumn budget is potentially coming up as well. And Boris does expect a lot of kickback, expecting a lot of trouble to be coming from, shall we say, his own MPs. We've seen a lot of Tories who, again, for years have proudly announced that they love cutting, benefits to the working class people of this country. Now, all of a sudden, they're in favour of, for the first time ever, not cutting these benefit cuts, because they realise that Boris has created this very, very uneven alliance between these new northern MPs and these new southern MPs. And, shall we say, he's walking a very, very tight rope, because if he loses his northern support, then, he's screwed. If he loses his southern support, he's screwed. And he loses both. If he loses both, then there's the potentiality of the Conservative Party completely and utterly collapsing. So that's definitely one of two of the theories that are swimming around in the ether out there. We've talked before about the potentiality of there being a early election being called by Boris, because Boris wants to get rid of the Fixed Term Parliament Act. And if he gets rid of that, potentially in this next sitting of Parliament, which is very likely he could call an early election. So could this be an indication that this is where it's heading? As always, politics is like, sometimes playing Mystic Meg. Sometimes you get your predictions right. Sometimes you get them horribly wrong. Well, like I say, I don't know. We will have to wait and see. But let's jump into some of these tweets, and we'll be going over the Guardian's live feed of this as this came in throughout the day. Like I say, it's a good indication of what happened throughout the day and what the reaction was to some of these people losing their job and others getting and gaining these jobs. So, first of all, this came from the very first 8 hours ago. So this is about 11 o'clock. These were when there was, there's going to be a reshuffle. There's going to be a reshuffle. Is there going to be a reshuffle? We don't rightly know. So Sam Coates from Sky News tweet on this was, no confirmation on a reshuffle, but fair to say no work in SW1 is getting done until it is, or it's ruled out. Meetings and events have been cancelled. Decision-making is grinding to a halt, and lots of ministers are focused on whether their career is about to go up, stay the same, or end. Laura Kuenssberg. Having backed away from doing a reshuffle for a long time, will be fascinating to see how bold or not Johnson is willing to be today. Not likely to be anything like his first brutal day in number 10, when 17 ministers got the chop or packed it in. Johnson also hung on to ministers when they've been in trouble, when previous PMs would have likely to have let them go. Patel, Jerrick, Williamson have all stayed until now. Will they still be there by the end of day? So, like I say, this was about just gone 11 o'clock today. So this came in again 30 minutes later from a guy called George Grills. Overheard in Westminster, one cabinet minister frantically looking on their phone, saying, they're saying it's on. It's on. People are saying it's on. So, as you can see, no one knew or even expected that this was going to be a thing. There were lots of people thinking this isn't going to happen. But no, it did happen. It did happen. And coming back to Laura Kuenssberg's tweets, getting into this, is Boris Johnson being brave? Is he being very ambitious with who he's getting rid of and putting people in? Well, of course, as we've said from the very beginning, Boris set up a cabinet of yes men. He wanted people who were not strong so that no one would challenge him. And remember, we've had various confirmations at this point that no one is challenging Boris on anything he's saying. He is literally, apparently, again, according to Dominic Cummings, finishes a meeting by saying, before anyone can even challenge him or anything, by saying, right, let's get this done, and then speeds out the door before anyone can say anything. So, very, very interesting to see how this goes. Very, very interesting to see. Like I say, this was very, very early on still in the day. So at this point, the reshuffle had been all but commenced. And obviously, we got just later on that Boris's reshuffle had been tipped to start today. 3 sources have told The Guardian that Boris Johnson is planning to finally overhaul his cabinet with a reshuffle later today. There has been no denial from Downing Street, and civil servants are on high alert for a change of Secretary of State in their department. Diaries have been cleared, and first day plans for introducing new ministers are already at the ready. Special advisors whose jobs have depended on whether their ministers get to stay or even keep their jobs are also concluding conceding they expect a reshuffle today as well. After weeks of speculation, it could be that Wednesday is finally the day. Some believe the timing makes sense because Johnson is away at the UN General Assembly meeting next week, and Parliament is soon to break up for a conference recess, and an overhaul of the cabinet is badly needed. However, others have been sceptical, thinking that it would be very difficult to move ministers just weeks before the Conservative Party conference, when they are due to make major speeches ahead of the spending review before COP26 in November. At least it will finally be gotten out of the way, one exasperated frontbencher has said. So again, still very much, oh my God, a reshuffle at last. And like I say, we'll be getting into, hopefully in a bit, what these reshuffles essentially were. So hopefully. So here we are from some of, again, Rachel Warmoth from the Daily Mirror, saying, hearing that Boris Johnson will reshuffle his top team after PMQs. A senior Tory MP tells me the rumours moves are Gove to the Foreign Office, Dowden to Education, Gavin Williamson to Northern Ireland. If you can't tell, I'm laughing because that call in particular was dead wrong. That call in particular was really wrong. That one had been called incredibly wrong, to say the least. And of course, Nigel Adams, position to Department of Culture, Media and Secretary. Simon Hart out, Craig Williams in Wales. Someone from the guy from the Telegraph, Cat Nielsen. I'm told Kemley Belloc is nailed on for promotion, possibly in education. Tracy Crouch could be making a return as culture sec. Again, that was completely wrong. Jessica Elgott here. I'm dreadful at preceding these types of things, but my one observation is that several of the predicted reshuffle casualties are also people who are extremely loyal and have acted as useful lightning rods for scandals and could be a dangerous on the backbench, not immaterial. Sort of true there. Financial Times, Sebastian Payne. One ally of Boris Johnson tells me the reshuffle is on. Sacking after PMQs. Cabinet formed this afternoon. Reset changes tomorrow and Friday. So tomorrow could be interesting. Change of pace and some of the resets could be interesting. Health warning. No one knows for certain except the Prime Minister. Again, still some more shuffling on that. List of MPs down to ask questions. PMQs. Johnson and Starmer mixing it up. Johnson, Ian Blackford, Christine Greens, yep. So number 10 confirms the reshuffle happening today, say it will focus on uniting and levelling up the country. A number 10 source told journalists the PM will today conduct a reshuffle in place to put in place a strong and united team to build back better from the pandemic. Yesterday, the PM set his plan for managing COVID-19 during the autumn and winter, but the government must also redouble efforts to deliver on the people's priorities. The PM will be appointing ministers this afternoon with a focus on uniting and levelling up the whole country. Again, interesting and take on that. Like I say, we sort of know who got in and who went out, but it's sort of interesting, sort of having a look back at the ongoings to see how this all played out and how this unfolded and who got their, shall we say, promotions right. More Prime Minister's questions. That's fun. That's kind of fun. Kim Ledbetter. Ask if the PM will accept that the universal credit cuts will impact on people's mental health. Johnson says it would not. Says that Labour would just abolish universal credit altogether. This is, again, Labour is not talking about abolishing universal credit. Labour came up with the idea for universal credit in the first place. It's just that the Tories have driven the program into the complete ground. But anyway, that's still PMQs. Looks like more PMQs. Oh, I think we're finally here. Here we are. Well, that's the last PMQ ones. Oh, yeah, so this was it. This was apparently 7 hours ago at 12:47. Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, has already given a leaving speech, according to the HuffPost Sophie Slay. That was quite fun. That was quite fun when I heard that Williamson had been already given his leaving speech. It would be fascinating to know what he said in that leaving speech. Because, like I say, Williamson is one of these people who should never, ever in a month of Sundays be ever allowed into a ministerial position, like Priti Patel. They've both done like irreparable harm to this country, being in not only cabinet positions themselves, but Priti Patel deciding that she was going to formate her own foreign policy without even consulting the government. Like I say, two people who should not be anywhere near the cabinet ministers in any way, shape, or form. But there you go. So, yeah, this was the tweet. Source tells me Gavin Williamson has given a leaving speech in his office. Oh, to know what that leaving speech was. To be the fly on the wall. So, obviously, we got Gavin Williamson was one of the two cabinet ministers conspicuously missing from the front bench during PMQs. The other was Dominic Raab, the foreign secretary, and another minister tipped for demotion. Two cabinet ministers are missing from the front bench at PMQs, Dominic Raab and Gavin Williamson. So Raab is currently the first Secretary of State, theoretically the de facto Deputy PM, as well as the Foreign Secretary. It's also possible that he could have been moved out of the Foreign Office, which, again, if you know what happened, but allowed to keep the first Secretary of State title in a way that could make any move look less like a demotion. Again, interesting. ITV's Carl Dinnan, Oliver Dodwin and Liz Truss have left the Commons chamber together after PMQs, looking quite happy with life. They seem to be heading away from the Prime Minister's office in the Commons. Kim Badenoch, who doubles up as the Equalities Minister and Treasury Minister, has been spotted outside the PM's office in the Commons, according to the Times' earlier reporting. Badenoch has been tipped for Education Secretary. So Kim Badenoch has been spotted outside the PM's parliamentary office, but not clear whether she has gone in or was just waiting around doing her business. Oh no, this is PMQ snap verdict. Dominic Raab is seeing the PM now. BBC Laura Koonsberg reports. Interesting, and like I say, we know what happened there. Well, we're about to find out. Downing Street again 6 hours ago at just before 1:30 today, confirming that yes, these ministers are going to be moved about. Interesting enough. ITV's Robert Patterson. I assume Oliver Dowden will be the new Education Secretary, and maybe Mark Spencer to be new Environmental, Food, Rural Affairs and Secretary of State. Of course, from out of government, Oliver Dowden is still going to RTS Convention in Cambridge to deliver his speech on C4/British Broadcasting. Interesting enough, considering that he's not in that position anymore. But again, we'll get to that soon. This was Dominic Raab leaving for the first time. By the way, Dominic Raab today went to the Prime Minister's office, then was seen leaving. Then from reports, which I'm sure we'll get to later, apparently was throwing his toys out of the pram, was the quote used. So clearly, things were not going too well for Raab today. In fact, he went back and forth to number 10, I believe, and at least another 2 times during all this. So, like I say, it gets interesting. Get down to the bottom here. So this was the speculation about what might be happening to Dominic Raab. I'm told Dominic Raab is with Boris Johnson now, which implies he's being moved. This feels like bigger than an expected reshuffle, said one senior government member. Robert Buckland, now in Commons 2, suggestion that Raab might go to Ministry of Justice, his current berth. Nadeem Zawawi, the vaccine deployment minister, has arrived in the Commons. The Sun Harry Cole's report, Zawawi is tipped for promotion, possibly to Conservative Party chair. By the way, let's cover this. We've said this numerous times before. Zawawi has been has gotten the undue, shall we say, thanks for being in charge of the vaccine rollout. Ultimately, he has not. He's just been the minister that has overseen the vaccine rollout. He actually hasn't done anything to it. As is always, as to remind people, this vaccine rollout had nothing to do with Boris Johnson. It had nothing to do with the government. It had nothing to do with Matt Hancock at the time at all. It was entirely down due to the NHS and Army Logistics. They are the people who pretty much did, shall we say, all the legwork, all the organising. He pretty much just sat there and said, "Is it going well? Good." Basically, that was literally what he did. Let's clear that up before people think that he's unduly deserved for this. What's this? Damir Telver, Bowler Hat Man. The rumour from France 24 Live is that Raab is becoming Justice Minister and Deputy PM. Well, he's still the Deputy PM. I don't know if he's becoming Justice Minister or not. I don't know if that role has been filled yet or not. But like I say, you can see the updates. But like I say, we'll catch up in a bit, I suspect. The current co-party chair, Amanda Milling, she has been seen from the PM's office in the Commons. Milling has been tipped for a move. Again, she actually wasn't. I believe she got the sack. So it said she'd been there earlier, and there's a lot of speculation that she's being sacked, which is right. I believe she did get the sack. I don't think she's been moved, or am I getting confused with someone else? I think she's one who got the sack, but we'll catch up later. Yep, and this is where it all happened. So this was the first one. Gavin Williamson sacked from his post as Education Secretary. Gavin Williamson is confirmed he's no longer the Education Secretary. This is his tweet. It's been a privilege to serve as Education Secretary since 2019. Despite the challenges of the global pandemic, I'm particularly proud of the transformational reforms I've led in the past 16. post-16 education in further education, college, or skills agenda, apprenticeships, and more. This program will create a better life and opportunities for pupils, students over in the years to come. I look forward to continuing to support the Prime Minister and the government. So the line in the second tweet about continuing to support the Prime Minister and the government implies that Williamson is returning to the backbenchers, but he has not said that explicitly. William is expected to be moved, but reportedly is angling for another job, such as Leader of the Commons or Northern Ireland Secretary. Again, why on earth would you allow this? It's truly catastrophic, but we'll see. Oh, is that true? Apparently, well, good luck to the Justice Department if Rab is Justice Secretary. Literally, we can't bypass that. He's been absolutely useless. He's a completely and utterly useless minister. And I feel, excuse me, I'm going to go blow my nose because I am coming down with absolute cold. Woo! There we go. So, Loki's children, good evening to you from Northumberland. Like I say, we are just going over the day's events, and we've just got up to essentially Gavin Williamson being sacked. So we'll be going through more over some of the changes, like I say, as we catch up with the news, and we see what else happened as well with some of these changes. So this was the big one. I saw this as well just before 2:00 today. And of course, as you can see, it says ministerial source at Priti Patel not looking happy. I simply pass on. I was hoping that Priti Patel would get the sack. I was very, very much hoping for that. Like I say, it would make sense, to be honest, because Johnson's potentially taking out someone who could be a potential troublemaker in the future for him, especially if, shall we say, Boris starts to lose his shine. I think we have reached the end of what has definitely been Boris Johnson's very much honeymoon period. Like I say, this autumn is really going to be the challenge for him. There's so many challenges this autumn, not just from the budget, but COVID, a lot of stuff, Brexit itself. We had an announcement yesterday that checks between the UK and the EU have been moved forward for yet another year, with Frost citing COVID-related issues. Of course, as we said before, it's not COVID, it's Brexit, and quite frankly, the incompetence of the Tory government for not preparing for these changes. But yeah, I was hoping that Patel would go. I really was hoping that Patel would go and that she'd be banished once again to the backbenchers. Like I say, it's where she belongs, and she's one of these people like Gavin Williamson who has done incredible harm to this country, who should never, ever in a month of Sundays from any good prime minister would never ever allow either Williamson or Patel in their cabinet or anywhere near a cabinet minister ever again. Like I say, Patel decided to go and pursue her own foreign policy without leave from the government, and well, Williamson gave away national secrets. You know, why on earth should they ever be allowed to do this today? Honestly. So this was the first one. We're getting the signs of Robert Buckland. And Robert Buckland, by the way, this is easily the biggest surprise. Not only is Robert Buckland very, very highly recommended in the Conservative Party. Like I say, he served about 18 years as a public prosecutor. So someone who knows the law and the justice, probably someone who you wanted. And we're going to get on later today that I don't think he was too happy, shall we say, about shall we say, his removal. But very, very surprising from all reports of what we read. Very, very loyal supporter of Boris Johnson as well. I don't think so anymore. I don't think so anymore, because it does appear that he has been given the push so that essentially Raab could have a position in cabinet, because apparently, as we'll probably get on today, and we might see the tweet later on, Raab apparently literally threw his toys out of the pram. So that could be why Buckland went. And like I say, from all intents and purposes, Buckland seems to be at this moment to be a bit of a happy camper, but I don't think he really is, given that, again, we'll get to his tweets and some of his comments, what he's said later. So again, another one. Johnson is now back in number 10, according to Steve Back, who tweets for Politic Picks. So again, this is where it all starts to happen, but we already knew Williamson was gone. So let's get to the BBC Education editor on Gavin Williamson. So Gavin Williamson has said his goodbyes. No education secretary expects to take on the job, only for the world's schools to close, with millions of children remote learning alongside their stressed parents. The pandemic created huge challenges for schools, with changing guidelines and government low points, where obviously the dysfunction in food vouchers, and the education secretary muddling Marcus Rushford with another black sporting icon. In his farewell, Gavin Williamson points out the work on his skills, very much a work in progress, which in the next education secretary will have to pick up. But no mention of the car crash in public opinion around the 2020 GCSE A-level grades. Having weathered all this year's results season with less collateral damage, Gavin Williamson may well have hoped to live to fight another day. Education is central to the government's promising to level up, and a big spending department that could do with a very heavy hitter. Which is very true. But there you go. Yep. So this is it. Robert Buckland sacked from his post officially at this point. This is his tweet, his leaving tweet. It has been an honour to serve the government for the last 7 years. So he's been in that position for a long time. As the Lord Chancellor for the last 2. I'm deeply proud of everything I've achieved. On to the next adventure. Like I say, Robert Buckland was the surprise exit. He really was. Incredibly loyal, by all accounts, to Boris Johnson. Even though he's been there, like I say, for 7 years. Incredibly loyal to Boris Johnson. Very, very well respected within the Tory party. Like I say, he's got like 18 years under his belt as like a prosecutor in that law realm. So obviously like a perfect match. Someone who's been and interacted with the law. basically got the boot, apparently, from what we're seeing here, and we'll probably find out later that, yeah, Dominic Raab is now the Justice Secretary. You couldn't get a worse match, to be honest. And the secret barrister really put it right. With her tweet today, their tweet, again, we don't know if it was a guy or woman, saying that the government really does hate the Justice Department. Really hates the Justice Department. Like I say, it is one of the departments that has been criminally underfunded for years. And if you don't believe me, go and have a look at some of the secret barristers' blogs about the infrastructure, not like the sentencing, the laws, or anything like that, just the infrastructure. The fact that we have courtrooms that are not fit for purpose anymore, courtrooms and courts that are crumbling to pieces because the last court we built was in the 80s. Like just get around that for a second, that we have not built a new court for well over, 4 decades at this point? I think it is. Like 4 or 5 decades. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. Not only that, but money as well to help fix some of these things. The secret barrister, in one of her blogs about this, said that I think they were in a court, or one of their colleagues had been in a court, where there was a known water leak, and there was literally water pouring into the courtroom while they were mid-session. So, yeah, again, very, very serious department that has been, again, criminally underfunded by the Tories, even more so by austerity, and made even worse by the Tories. Let's carry on with this. So, like I say, at this point, Robert Buckland had gone. Like I say, that was the surprise of the day. Again, very shocking. Yep, so here we are. So, recovering some of this. So 2 cabinet ministers have been sacked, but the circumstances of their departure are very different. Gavin Williamson has been widely expected to go as Education Secretary because of his performance in the post, and was not seen as poor and at times disastrous. He regularly came bottom by a long way on the Conservative Home Secretary of how party members ranked the performance of cabinet ministers. Here's the latest ratings. As you can see, he's down there. Like I say, the only other person who did bad as well was Amanda Milling. And if you think that, as some people are saying, that we're going to head into an election, a possible snap general election, then it's not surprising these 2 went. And you have to excuse me, because I don't know if you can hear, my nose has been blocked up, so I don't know if I'm talking weird now. But yeah, you'll have to excuse me again. Wow. There we go. Oh. So, as you've seen from this board, while we're here, you can see who's at the top. We've got Liz Truss by a long way, by about 85%. 85%. Then it's Rishi Sunak at 74. Frost at 65. That's laughable. Ben Wallace at 62. 64. Sajid Javid at 62. Jacob Rees-Mogg at 58. Steve Barclay at 54. Robert Buckland at 50%. And obviously it just keeps on going down here. But yeah, Dominic Raab here down at the bottom, down by at least 6.1%. That's incredibly low. And Robert Jerrick at 1%. It's not surprising. Not all surprising of who went today. Get rid of the unpopular ones, keep the popular ones, or put them in more prominent positions. So, according to Sam Williamson, apparently, Williamson was offered an alternative post but refused to take a demotion. Again, interesting. And as we said, Robert Buckland is different. In a cabinet, not seen as one of history's ablest or even most impressive, but he was regarded as a solid performer, and the Conservative Party members were relatively pleased with his performance. As you can see, he's got 50% approval rating. But Buckland's problem may have been that he was dispensable. He voted Remain, and unlike other cabinet Remainers, he has never pretended to go through an ideological conversion to vote Leave cause. Although liked by colleagues, he does not have supporters and is likely to cause trouble if he leaves the government. We'll get onto that later. And unlike some in government, he did not seem keen on waging war on the judiciary. The Conservative manifesto proposed limiting the scope of judicial review as part of an attack on what the Tories described as judicial activism. But Buckland, a QC himself, only seemed to have very limited enthusiasm for this. He appointed an independent commission in order to consider the issue, but it ended up proposing just limited reforms. Buckland may also have been a bed blocker, because there is speculation that Johnson wanted him out so he could offer the job to Dominic Raab. Again, by the sounds of it, that's very much likely what happened. Will he cause trouble further down the line? We don't know. Potentially might be if Raab decides to go through going after the judicial activism. Like I say, that could be very, very interesting if Raab decides to go after that. I'll have to see. Uh-oh. Let's see where we are. Here we are. So Harry Cole, Raab had been there a hole. In a hole. Powell suggested earlier this week he had a few things he wanted to get off his chest after being blamed for the Kabul disaster. Aggrieved, as one ally put it. He's been in there a very long time. Robert Jerrick, there was the second one to go. And again, Jerrick, a perfect example of, again, someone who should have been sacked long ago on this. Trust me, he should have gone a long time ago. Like I say, Robert Jerrick caught literally red-handed, being given a lot of cash by a Conservative Party donor and then going through, shall we say, approving planning applications for that then Conservative Party donor. That is basically a very clear-cut case of out-and-out corruption. Why he wasn't sent then? Again, he was a very loyal ally to Boris Johnson, and by overall, an absolutely awful minister. He has not been able to do anything, but considering that he is technically under the Tory government, the longest running current Minister for Housing, bear in mind from a few months ago, before Jerrick, there hadn't been a housing minister longer in the post than 8 months before that. That's how fast they were changing through this position at one point. So, but like I say, Jerrick did nothing. And to be honest, he was a massive liability. Oh, what's this? Jordan K. Heads up, Bowler Hat Man. Things happening in 10 minutes. BJ, Boris Johnson wants US President Joe Biden and Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison for an on-camera address at 10 o'clock. That could be interesting. Michael Gove he is the Minister of Housing as well as levelling up. So that could be interesting because he's being given an expanded portfolio. He's not going to be he's not going to be in charge of just housing. He's also going to be in charge of levelling up, and we'll get to that when we get to it because I've got a lot to say about that when we get to it. So this was Robert Jerrick's leaving tweet. It has been a huge privilege to serve as Secretary of State for housing, for Minister for Housing Communities. I forgot what the full position was now. Thank you to everyone at the department and their hard work, dedication and friendship. I'm deeply proud of all we achieved. I will continue to support the Prime Minister and the government any way I can. You'll notice that as the common theme. Everyone who gets sacked, I will continue to support the Prime Minister and government any way I can. Basically, I'm being banished to the backbenchers, but I promise I'm going to be a good boy. Essentially, that's really what it is. That's really what it translates to. I promise I'm going to be a good boy, and I promise I won't cause any trouble for you, Boris, on the backbenchers. So, of course, obviously that point was Jerrick was sacked. Of course, we've got here, why was Robert Jerrick sacked? Or why was Robert Jerrick forced out? His sacking was probably more in the Gavin Williamson mode than the Robert Buckland mode. Although loyal to Boris Johnson and said to be well regarded by his wife, Carrie, Jerrick has been associated with a series of gaffes or scandals which were largely seen as lucky to even keep his job, even after intervening in the planning discussion to help Tory billionaire, this is what we were talking about, Richard Desmond. Jerrick's move was subsequently ruled unlawful. Jerrick is also in charge of the planning bill, but his initial plans to create a presumption in favour of development in some areas have been horrified the Greenbelt Tories, and a rethink is now underway. So that could be why he's gone. Like I say, we saw a lot of the when the Lib Dems won their by-election in Amersham. A big reason a lot of the people were saying was because of those changes to the planning rules. Jerrick is the guy behind that. So it could very well be that in order to try and, shall we say, secure the South, those southern seats, they're going to give Jerrick the boot and do that whole rethink around the planning permission, which again will be very interesting to see. And like I say, Gove will be in charge of that now. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. So here we are from the Times, Henry Zafman, saying that the biggest losers from the reshuffle so far are all key Boris Johnson supporters in the past. Sackings so far: Williamson, whip for Johnson's 2019 leadership campaign; Buckland, early Remainer endorsement; Jerrick, a crucial endorsement with Sunak and Dowden; Maybe next, Milling working on his 2016 leadership campaign, not a reshuffle to reward loyalty. And that's interesting to actually get into, because some of these people are very, very much Boris Johnson loyalists. Buckland was the surprise one to go. But Williamson and Jerrick, again, two very big sources for huge scandals and gaffes seen within the government. So very, very interesting to see them go, to say the least. But he does make a good point in this. This cabinet has really not so far rewarded any loyalty. And you've got to be thinking, if you're now in cabinet or you're in the backbenches, you're seeing Boris Johnson not reward loyalty. So given the fact that we are going to have so many problems in the autumn, this could, I think, give more, shall we say, oomph to those Tory MPs who do not want to be loyal to Boris Johnson, who are upset about the direction Johnson has taken in the party, as well as the Northern MPs who are still hugely upset about the levelling up promises. Like I say, trust me on this, the North is on their case about the levelling up promises that Johnson made. And so far, they haven't seen anything from it. Like I say, the election was in 2019. We're in 2021 now. Still, no signs of levelling up. So if you're in that position and you've seen Boris Johnson basically, give the boot to some of his most loyal minions, what reason do you have to stay loyal anymore? So that could be very interesting. These are from Danny Shaw, the BBC's Home Affairs correspondent, on the departure of Robert Buckland. Looks like Robert Buckland has been sacked. He was a good Justice Secretary who understood the criminal justice and the court landscape, but politically was not on the same page as the PM. That's why he's probably gone. It means we're about to have the 8th Justice Secretary in 10 years. 8 in 10 years. That is a lot to go through. A year ago, Robert Buckland almost resigned during the row over the Internal Markets Bill, which overrode parts of the withdrawal agreement. His cards were probably marked then. He's also been a safe pair of hands at Mojo Government UK, but PM in no doubt wants a more populist Justice Secretary. And so in comes Dominic Raab, apparently. So this is from some of the opposition on some of these. Harriet Harman, the former Labour deputy leader and chair of the Joint Committee on Human Rights, has paid tribute to Robert Buckland. Thank you to Robert Buckland. The most important changes you've made on domestic violence and sex violence against women. Jess Phillips tweeted as well. Gotta say this is a fair comment. The pace and depth I could critique, but no doubt Buckland cared and wanted to see changes that worked. So even from the other side, Buckland was actually quite well respected. And that's quite rare sometimes. Quite rare that you see oppositional MPs say that, yeah, he was well liked. John Culsberg thinks Amanda Milling may be sacked from her post as Conservative Party co-chair. Amanda Milling has just come out of the PM's Commons office looking very miserable, I'm told by reliable source, looking pretty glum at PMQs too. Amanda Milling's roof says she's been sacked, apparently. Amanda Milling and aides wandering around Parliament looking lost. Just stared straight ahead when I asked about her fate. Looks utterly miserable. Looks like back to the benches for her. From ITV's Carol Darnan. The Prime Minister's car has just arrived back at Downing Street amid speculation that Dominic Raab has refused to take the Justice job. Dominic Raab has apparently walked into number 10, so maybe he has taken the job. One Whitehall official says Dominic Raab is throwing the toys out of the pram. This is what I was talking about the tweet earlier today. Like, Raab apparently was not happy. He has not been happy, apparently, that he took the fall predominantly for the Afghanistan debacle, which predominantly was on his watch. He was responsible for that happening. But that comment, I think, says it all. Says it all. Throwing the toys out of the pram. Might be very, very might be very, very interesting. So here we have. So yep. So this was this official at about just gone 3 o'clock, 20 past 3, about 5 hours ago now. So Raab moving from Foreign Secretary to Justice Secretary with upgrade to Deputy PM2. Dominic Raab is moving from the Foreign Secretary to the Justice Secretary, as according to BBC Laura Kuenssberg. That would be a demotion. But she says there is also he's being made the Deputy Prime Minister, as well as retaining his first Secretary of State title, which arguably would count as a promotion. So Dominic Raab confirmed as Justice Secretary, Lord Chancellor, Deputy Prime Minister, first cabinet appointment. Again, someone from James Forsyth now confirming that. Raab now Justice Secretary with Deputy PM title. Oh, there we go. So what does being Deputy PM mean? Because we don't actually have... it's not technically like an official position, the PM. So again, that could be somewhat interesting. So Downing Street has confirmed that Dominic Raab is becoming Justice Secretary and Deputy PM. It says the Queen has approved his appointment as Deputy Prime Minister, Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice. He seems to have lost the first Secretary of State title, but arguably Deputy PM is just a fancy version for the first Secretary of State title. Most cabinets have have been seen in some sort of de facto deputy PM, but very few people actually had it as a formal job title. The last person was, of course, Nick Clegg, because of the nature of the coalition. He had some clout. If gone, he could have collapsed the coalition. For other people, the title has just been more cosmetic. Geoffrey Howe was made Deputy Prime Minister when, like Raab, he was moved from the Foreign Secretary. Howe also had another more junior job, Leader of the Commons. Being Deputy Minister sounds important, but Bernard Ingram, Margaret Thatcher's press secretary, briefed that the title was just essentially meaningless. So Raab there, of course, he gets the justice thing, but he gets now the official title of being Deputy PM, which, as you can see there, he pretty much confirms it's a meaningless title. It means nothing. He has absolutely no power. So it means absolutely nothing in the long run from this. So again, another update. Downing Street has confirmed that Robert Buckland, Robert Jerrick and Gavin Williamson have all been sacked. Spokespersons say they have all now left the government. The spokesperson went on to say, again, being very positive about them, even though, again, Robert Buckland's probably the only one that can actually really be positive about. Robert Jerrick and Gavin Williamson have been absolute disasters. And why they're only being sacked now is generally a mystery. But there you go. So this was the first confirmation of people staying. So Rishi Sunak staying as Chancellor, number 10 is confirmed. No one thought he wasn't. Priti Patel staying as Home Secretary, says number 10 says. Priti Patel is staying as Home Secretary. My colleague Jessica Algott reports. Update number 10 has confirmed this. Again, I thought, given that earlier tweet we saw about Patel not looking happy, I thought Priti Patel might have gone. Apparently not. She's staying. This was Michael Gove arriving at Downing Street. This was from, again, Robert Patterson, again 4 hours ago. Looks like Nazim Mazari will be the new chair of the Tory party following the departure of Amanda Milling. Again, not happened. So if Michael Gove has gone to housing, presumably Truss Liz is foreign secretary. Again, that was right. Yes, she has become the foreign secretary, but we'll get that to that in a bit. And of course, this was it. Broke about 4 hours ago. Liz Truss is the next foreign secretary. The Times' Stephen Williamson reports this is indeed a big promotion for the international trade secretary, but the move will be popular with Tory members who have regularly rated her as being the best performing member of the cabinet. And like I say, we saw that chart earlier. She is 10 points ahead of Rishi Sunak. So she is seen overwhelmingly as like the most best performing minister in Parliament. There you go. Will she be any good? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Liz Truss is generally the last person you want as the foreign secretary. Because again, there's this, if you look at it from like the Tory party view, what she has done is she's gone and done these rollover deals, which essentially amounts to copy and pasting the deals that the EU had to have continuity while we arrange the new trade deal. And ultimately, those trade deals are going to be worse than those continuity ones. Again, nothing of the sort has come through them yet. We are still, of course, waiting on the Australian trade deal. We've already heard about us abandoning the environmental commitments on this deal. Who knows what else may be in there? I've talked before about the fact that the rumor came out from Cambrian Australia that we were going to abandon the limit on the tariffs, meaning that the tariffs would be gone from the start, from the beginning, for agricultural products, not this 15-year lead-up time, which would be absolutely devastating to a to British farming. It would absolutely be devastating. And like I say, we've still got to see the deal, what goes in it. I've already talked about just how bad and bizarre the Japan trade deal is. It's just god awful. Like I say, Liz Truss, all she had to do is get trade deals, and the Conservatives are like, hey, trade deal, but they haven't actually bothered to read or even care about what the implications for these trade deals are. Partly because we've been in the EU for so long, people have actually forgotten how important trade deals actually are to this country. Like I say, I think that could very well change. And remember, all it's going to take is potentially another crisis. Like I say, I can't, let's Mystic Meg this. I can't see there being any more major catastrophes on the scale of Afghanistan for some time. Like I say, we're not involved anywhere on that scale around the world. But again, we'll have to see. But she will not handle it well. She will not handle it well. She has absolutely no experience in foreign affairs whatsoever. But there you go. So, yep. So this is Liz Truss. Again, big announcement, because as you can see, just earlier on, she's really popular among the Conservatives. So it makes sense to give her a really big fanfare of her promotion. And as I've said before, this now potentially now puts her in the running to replace Boris Johnson. I think even more. I think there's an even more stronger case that if Boris Johnson goes, she'll be one of the people to replace him. Ultimately, I think, to be honest, given the fact of her popularity as it is at this moment, I would not be surprised to say she would probably stand as being a very, very good chance to be the next prime minister. Would not put that from happening. In fact, if you were to say, if you were to say to me, who would you put money on being the next leader of the Conservative Party and ultimately the prime minister, Liz Truss would be a pretty good bet. I couldn't argue with that. It would be a pretty good bet. But yeah, interesting time to say the least. Very interesting times indeed. So anyway, we're at the halfway point now, so I'll do a bit of supporting. By the way, if you would like to support the channel, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel. Please do remember, if you would like to also help support the channel, click that like and share button as well. Like I say, it helps get more people in. Thank you very much for help support the channel. So anyway, back to this. Pretty Bird. Was Liz Truss always a Brexiteer? No, she wasn't. She was a Remainer. Like I say, we've pointed this out before, of when she goes out crowing about all these, quote, fantastic trade deals. You can literally go back to her Twitter page when she was a Remainer, campaigning to remain, making all the arguments to remain in the European Union and going after the Brexiteers, saying that they're making out all these outlandish promises about trade. So she's definitely there because she had like a road, what is it? The what's it called? The road to Damascus moment of conversion. So this is Priti Patel leaving Downing Street after announcement from remaining Home Secretary. This is apparently from David Lammy, the Shadow Justice Secretary, on his new opposite number, Dominic Raab. So appointing a failed Foreign Secretary who was fired for being missing in action to be the 6th Justice Secretary in 6 years shows how little this government actually cares about victims of crime. Under this government, the Crown Court is backlogged and has reached a record high, while the number of rape convictions are at a record low. Victims need a Justice Secretary who is capable of fixing the court's crisis the government created. No one has been open about his opposition to the fundamental rights and freedoms that the public depends on. And of course, this was from the Lib Dems Justice spokesperson. There is no justice in this promotion. Raab is the latest member of this Tory government to be rewarded for failure. After his catastrophic handling of the Afghanistan crisis, he should be out of the government altogether. Raab has spent his entire career attacking the Human Rights Act and trying to undermine our cherished British freedoms. Liberal Democrats will not let him use his new position to roll back our rights. Again, like I say, trust me, tomorrow, I think a lot of people are going to be attacking Raab on like why Raab's in that position. I think a lot of people are going to be attacking his position on this. So where are we now? We're still 4 hours away. Catching up. So Bob Neill, the Conservative chair of the Commons Justice Committee, thinks that Robert Buckland did not deserve to be sacked. Tory MP Sir Bob Neill, who chairs the Justice Select Committee, told me Robert Buckland's sacking is unjust and outrageous, and he is being completely shabbily treated. Not surprising there. Like I say, I think this could lead to potential more trouble for Boris down the line. I think this could generally lead to more trouble for Boris, which again will be a good thing. because I think we are heading this autumn, especially when the budget hits, to a proper full-blown Tory civil war. And trust me, that is going to be fun to watch. That is going to be very, very fun to watch. Grab your popcorn for that. Nadine Dorries, the health minister, and Nadine Zahawi, the vaccine deployment minister, going to Downing Street. Zahawi tipped to be the next party chair. This is from, again, ITV on Liz Truss's promotion. Isn't the Foreign Office where you put colleagues who you couldn't possibly demote, but who might be somewhat away from the limelight? Liz Truss topped that recent Conservative home poll, remember, although didn't work for Theresa May when she chose it for Boris Johnson. Because someone else on this. Post-Truss mood check from King Charles Street. I think the word is subdued. Again, like I say, what qualifications does Liz Truss or experience does she bring to this table? Oh, she was the International Trade Secretary who managed to get, quote, trade deals. And we can't even say whether they were good or bad trade deals because most of them we haven't actually seen yet. Like I say, could be very, 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 very interesting. Very, very interesting. Like I say, I think her appointment and the fact that Buckland got sacked are going to be sort of dominating the news tomorrow for a bit, as well as potentially seeing some of these, quote, new agendas that Boris could put out tomorrow. So again, I could be quite busy tomorrow, to be honest. So if all hell breaks loose tomorrow, if all hell breaks loose tomorrow over this, we're probably going to do another live stream because there might be a lot of news to cover, but hopefully not. But nevertheless, there's going to be a lot of interesting news to come tomorrow. So this one obviously confirming Michael Gove's move. Michael Gove will be moved from the Cabinet Office to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, which is also becoming the Level Up Department, according to Telegraph's Ben Riley. Breaking. Michael Gove to be the new Community Secretary, Telegraph understands. He will also keep the union brief and be in charge of levelling up. The union team will move with him, so machinery of government shake-up. Like I say, I think the only reason Gove has been given that job is so that the Northern MPs will stop bugging Boris about where's this levelling up money, so they can now start bugging Michael Gove. And eventually, of course, when the levelling up doesn't happen, who's going to get the blame? Well, certainly not going to be Boris Johnson. After all, he wasn't in charge of it anymore. That was Michael Gove, not Boris. So yeah. Of course, Liz Truss on her promotion. Of course, confirming about Michael Gove's move to the Housing Secretary with added responsibility for levelling up. So Michael Gove is the new Housing Secretary, number 10 is announced, as well as being the new Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, who will also take on cross-government responsibility for levelling up, while he retains the ministerial responsibility for the union and elections. He was also the Cabinet Office where he was the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Again, just confirming that. So that was pretty much locked in. And then, of course, we have Nadine Dorries. Dorries, currently the Health Minister, is a very successful fiction writer, which means she would be better qualified to represent the creative industries than many other people who have done that job. But she was also right-wing and very pro-Brexit, two traits that makes her very less welcome in the arts world. Again, from Laura Kuenssberg, sources expecting Nadine Dorries to become the Department for Digital Communications and Media Secretary. Not yet confirmed, but it would be later. Again, someone else reacting to the sacking of Robert Buckland. Again, I think this is going to come back and bite Boris in the ass. I definitely think this is going to strike him in this. Oh, You got someone in Twitch chat. Rowan, hello, good evening to you. What's the truffle shuffle? Sounds like a Baskin Robbins ice cream flavor. Well, Boris Johnson has had a cabinet reshuffle today, so I've decided to call it his little truffle shuffle because, like I say, the Tory party are always about shuffling, trying to advance themselves up the greasy pole, and of course they're like pigs during the reshuffle time, snuffling around for those precious truffles. So hence, it's the cabinet truffle shuffle. So again, like I say, Robert Buckland being sacked and his removal from the Justice Secretary, like I say, really well liked in the Conservative Party, had years of experience in the legal profession. Rab doesn't. I think this is really going to come back to bite him. Like I say, someone reacting here to the point of Dominic Raab. Dominic Swing, the QC, the chair of the Bar Council. It lies in the last sentence, which he calls for someone to make the position their own. He points out that Raab is the 8th Lord Chancellor in 10 turbulent years for the justice system, saying, Robert Buckland, MP QC, has been the Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State of Justice at a time when the justice system has faced unprecedented challenges. The Bar Council has worked closely with him and the Ministry of Justice during this time in office. We are grateful for his willingness as a former practicing barrister to work collaboratively and listen to the legal professionals. We wish him well and look forward to working with his successor, Dominic Raab, who is also a qualified lawyer. As we welcome the 8th Justice Secretary in the last 10 years to play this vital role, the need for a constant and strong voice in government for our justice system could not be greater. Again, basically saying, hey, he's the last justice, we've the last justice secretary, we've had 8 justice secretaries in 10 years. Like, that is not good. like that is not good. That is not good at all. That is not good at all that we've had, 10 years, 8 justice secretaries. That's almost one a year. Almost. But yeah, not good and an incredibly important position, obviously, in cabinet. You'd think you'd keep some continuity there. But again, the Department of Justice has been horribly treated by the government, and apparently Robert Buckland has been horribly treated by Boris. So expect him to be, shall we say, one of the troublemakers in the near future of, shall we say, Boris Johnson's future upsets. So Oliver Dowden, the Culture Secretary, is going to be replaced. Amanda Milling it's good to place Amanda Millings as the Conservative Party chair or co-chair. BBC's Laura Kunsberg reports. Millings' job was doing alongside Ben Elliott, who is not an MP. Again, Oliver Dowden, by the way, pretty much responsible for importing the culture wars here to the UK. And his follower, which we'll get into soon, pretty much the same and even worse. So we can expect the culture wars to be massively ramped up by the government under the person that replaced him. Like I say, we'll get to her in a bit. RDC Killer, welcome. Good evening to you. Welcome to the Boris Johnson's Truffle Shuffle. We're going over the recent cabinet shuffle that's happened here in the UK. Again, going over those are the connections between, again, people pointing out those who are getting promotions, those who are getting sacked, as you can see down here. FT's Jim Pickett has posted a tweet implying that you could see this as the ratings-related reshuffle, or that one seemed to give party members the final say. This thesis does not quite work well because he's not included Robert Buckland. Of course, Robert Buckland, where is Buckland? There he is, Robert Buckland. There he is. 50%. So he was very well liked within the Conservative Party itself. So it's very surprising that he's gone. Very surprising that he's gone. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Here we are. So again, 4 hours ago. Number 10 has confirmed Mark Spencer staying as chief whip. Number 10 has also confirmed that Oliver Dowden will be minister without a portfolio in the cabinet office. Basically meaning what that means, a minister without a portfolio essentially means that he doesn't have a job, but he gets to sit in cabinet. So he just gets to sit there. Whether you can say this is a downgrade or a sort of a side grade, yeah, you can say it's a bit of a bit in between. And of course, Nadine Dorries. Oh my word! Yeah. If you thought and were annoyed by the culture wars like I was over here in the UK, be prepared for these to get kicked into overdrive, because Nadine Dorries has heavily engaged in culture war nonsense. So be prepared for these to take over. And like I say, I think later on someone does cover some of like the ridiculous tweets that she has made in the past about culture war stuff. Here they are. So, Nadine Dorries was a prolific user of Twitter before she became a minister, and her back catalogue will make very interesting reading now that she is the Culture Secretary. Here is a tweet from December of 2017, suggesting that the war on woke launched by Oliver Dowden when he was the secretary is very likely to continue. So here are some of her, shall we say, best of tweets. Left-wing snowflakes are killing comedy, tearing down historic statues, removing books from universities, dumbing down Panto, removing Christ from Christmas, and suppressing free speech. Sadly, it must be true. History does indeed repeat itself. It will be music next. Oh my God. Oh, she's and this woman's culture secretary now. Oh my word. Oh my word. Oh my word. Literally, like, words fail me. Like, words fail me. This is going to be awful with her as culture secretary. It's going to be awful with her as culture secretary. She also pointed this about the BBC back in March 2018. Again, this suggests continuity with Dowden's regime. Nadine Dorries. Again, quoting the Guido Fawkes. Well, I've said this before. I've said this before. I've said this before that anyone who quotes the Guido Fawkes, clearly an absolute idiot. Like I say, the people over at the Guido Fawkes, run by Paul Thirsty Staines and his team, are absolute notorious twisters of truth. And essentially, when news goes to die, think of it as the UK's version of Breitbart. Because that's what it is. It's the UK version of Breitbart. I've said before, we're going to do a stream on the Guido Fawkes. I think we will. I think it's time we tackled the Guido Fawkes beast and tried to take it to some hung, drawing, and quartering, because quite frankly, it deserves it. So, this from Ben Quinns. The BBC Director of News has defended the corporation's impartiality and criticised the abuse directed from a former UK HuffPost editor experienced broadcast journalist who has just been appointed as the senior editorial post. The corporation announced the appointment because of Jess Brammer, who will run the corporation's rolling news channel, despite the attempts of a board member with ties to Downing Street to block the move on political grounds. The journalist, who had also worked with the editor on Newsnight, also faced months of attacks in conservative media outlets after she emerged as the leading candidate for the role. Her appointment as exclusive editor, BBC News Channels, comes despite the highly unusual intervention of Sir Robbie Gibb, a former director of communications to Theresa May, who was appointed to the BBC board by the governor earlier this year. In a leaked text message obtained by the Financial Times, this is just, again, trying to, government trying to muscle in on the BBC's impartiality. And then this was Nadeem Zahawi appointed to the Education Secretary, which is a massive role for him. Ben Wallace staying as Education Secretary. Here's some interesting tweets, by the way, from people responding to Nadeem Zahawi's appointment as Education Secretary. So this was a guy from Mark Leach. He's the father of Wonk, the higher education policy website. The HE WOPSAT circuit's reaction is, that's much better than we could have hoped for. Safe pair of hands. Lots in sector know him from past role, probably an uncomfortable fit for ramping up education culture wars, but owes everything to number 10, so no chance of any resistance at his round of cuts, etc. And again, they all know cuts are coming, and they wanted someone who's going to resist, who's not going to say anything about the cuts. So best to have him in. Someone else, Sam Friedman. Nadeem Zahawi is EdSec, not a name many people had mentioned. He'd been at the Department of Education before, doing early years and social care. I don't really call him causing too much trouble or doing anything hugely interesting. Again, might be the reason why he was put there. Zahawi is the first non-white education secretary. He was privately educated at KDS Wimbledon, set up YouGov, not known for education views, but I'm guessing he'll be interested in edtech plus entrepreneurship stuff. This is another education tech founder, Nadeem Zahawi, at 54. He's slightly older than the average education secretary, privately educated, standard, chemistry degree, unusual, but not the first EdSec with it. That would be Thatcher. Previously early years minister and apprenticeships minister. It's good to see someone with experience of 2 junior ed briefings taking the job. He's also done a very successful job with the vaccine rollout. Again, not exactly true. Predominantly, he just oversaw it. It was mainly NHS and armed logistics. As co-founder of the widely successful YouGov, he knows data, research, and operations. Skills-wise, he's done much better than this. Again, like I say, many reasons why they are celebrating this is they've had Gavin Williamson. And Gavin Williamson was useless. So many people in the education world probably tonight are celebrating Gavin Williamson going and this guy coming in because, quite frankly, so long as he doesn't drop the ball, he will probably be better education secretary than Gavin Williamson. People will probably inevitably complain that he's never been a teacher, but it's worth remembering the education brief also covers prison, social workers, universities, apprenticeships, and so on. We'll have to see how it translates, but on paper, he's a very good shout. So again, Stephen Barclay is now in the Cabinet Office at that time, and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. He's replacing Michael Gove. Oh no, Stephen Barclay is replacing Michael Gove, who is now Housing Secretary. Barclay was Chief Secretary to the Treasurer. So interesting. So he's now Duchy of Lancaster. Interesting. This was also passed as well. MPs passed non-binding motion for Labour the government should abandon the £20 a week cut. Again, massively voted in favour for. Of course, whether Boris Johnson will ignore it, he potentially will. But like I say, we're catching up now. Here we go. So, and this is who becomes the new International Trade Secretary. So this is who I will now be railing against instead of Liz Truss. So get used to hearing this name quite a lot on it. So this is Anne-Marie Trevelyan is becoming the International Trade Secretary. Anne-Marie Trevelyan has been announced and appointed as International Trade Secretary, number 10 as announced. She used to sit in cabinet as the International Development Secretary until Boris merged the department with the Foreign Affairs Office last year. When her job disappeared, she became a business minister and the minister of a state level. So it is very clearly a promotion. But again, like I say, get used to hearing that name a lot. Get used to hearing that name a lot. Yeah, I know. More people continue to die from COVID. That's going to ramp up massively, I think, in the next couple of months. That's going to massively ramp up in the next couple of months. And like I say, you look at countries like other island countries, Japan, twice the population and even more population density than there are here in the UK, yet haven't had as nearly as many deaths here in the UK. Like I say, this is a massive stain on the government, and trust me, when the time comes, this will be used as an absolute mallet to whack the government with. Like, they cannot recover. This is an absolute unmitigated disaster. When we get the COVID hearings, which we will be getting, Boris Johnson has already said and promised that we will be getting COVID hearings, so he can't go back on that promise now. And if he does, that's going to be bad for him. The Conservatives are going to get absolutely slaughtered left, right, and centre for this. But anyway, back to this. So again, like I say, get used to hearing Anne-Marie Trevelyan quite a lot, because that's going to be, shall we say, my new pain. And ultimately, I suspect tomorrow she may do some sort of speech or something tomorrow. Again, I don't know if we'll cover it. We'll see what happens. This is Buckland's resignation, having a massive dig at the Prime Minister. Buckland says in resignation letter, legal system has suffered years of underfunding. Robert Buckland has published his resignation letter on Twitter. If he is bitter about his sacking, he does not really show it. And the letter is mostly a summary of what he has done and what he is proud of. But he does say that the legal system needs more investment and that years of underfunding beforehand have not helped. He also says that as a backbencher, he intends to campaign on behalf of neurodiverse, as he has an autistic daughter. He says, again, I think this sacking is going to come back and is going to come back and strike him. I really do think he's going to come back and strike Boris later. I think this is going to massively affect him. He was well liked in the Conservative Party. He had very overwhelming support, as we saw there from that earlier poll. Why did you get rid of him? And you've put Dominic Raab in place. You've put Dominic Raab in his place. Why on earth would you do that? But I'm sure we'll find out very soon what Dominic Raab's plans are. But why is electoral stuff so boring? I know, but it's important. Highly important. Highly important. Graham Sharp's arriving at number 10 this afternoon. Number 10 has also confirmed that Alex Sharma, the COPE26 president, Kersey Quitang, business secretary, and Theresa Coffey, the work and pension secretary, and Sajid Javid, health secretary, are all remaining in post. Very surprising after Theresa Coffey. Very surprising that Theresa Coffey, after her comments on Monday, staying in position. Very surprising, but we'll have to see. Oh, yes, this was obviously another boost that we found out as well, that Amberley Treller's climate change denier. Climate change denier. Let's take a look at these. So, this is one of her tweets. Clear evidence that the ice caps aren't melting after all, to counter those doom-mongers and global warming fanatics. We aren't getting hotter. Global warming isn't actually happening. That's unbelievable. Lord Lawson of the Global Warming Policy Foundation hits back at Hutchins' ideological obsession with man-made climate change. Oh, my word. Intelligent article by climate realists. Again, a very well-known anti-climate change bias. Growing evidence and turning media against global warming myth. Oh, my. Yeah, oh my. Wow. So expect, as we saw with the Australian trade deal, for there to be more. Shall we say, abandoning of our climate change promises. Very interesting. Very, very interesting, to say the least. Grant Sharps has been reappointed as the Transport Secretary, he says. Delighted to be reappointed by Boris Johnson as the Transport Secretary. Transport is central to his Conservative government's levelling up agenda. I'm looking forward to working with Transport UK Gov and seeing this mission through. Well, you're not doing anything about it, Grant Sharps. HS2 is a bit of a disaster. Brandon Lewis staying as the Northern Ireland Secretary, number 10 is announced. Ed Varsey, the former Culture Minister, has welcomed the appointment of Lee Doris as the new Culture Secretary. Given that he is reportedly angling for the Ofcom chairship, he may be very well keen to make a good impression. Surprising. Simon Hart staying on as the Welsh Secretary, says number 10. He's also confirmed that Lord Frost is staying on as the Brexit Minister and Alistair Jack staying as the Scottish Secretary. And we're almost caught up. Almost caught up. This tweet. George Eustace is staying as the Environmental Secretary, number 10 says. There is report, apparently there's some doubt whether he would stay, because it was reported earlier this year that Carrie Salmons, a conservationist and animal lover, wanted him replaced because she thinks he's not doing enough on animal welfare. That's all from me tonight. Oh, that's when someone hands over. Baroness Evans of Bowles Park staying as the Lord Privy Seal and leader of the Lords, number 10 says. So far, Johnson's new cabinet. So with the cabinet reshuffle having somewhat overshadowed the Commons vote urging the government to cancel the £20 cut universal credit uplift, Labour has highlighted that the sacked Tory ministers who voted for the cut will be handed approximately £17,000 each in severance payments when they return to the backbenches. Ministers and other paid officials who received ministerial salaries are also entitled to severance pay when they leave office, which generally equate to about 3 months of their annual salary. Labour's motion to stop the planned £1,000 a year cut to universal credit passed as the government ordered MPs to abstain. The cut will affect approximately 1 in 14 British workers and is seen that an estimated 700,000 people will be plunged into poverty, including over 200,000 children. Again, I don't see how they recover from that. I really don't. I think this is going to hurt them really badly in their northern seats. I think this is going to hurt them really, really badly in their northern seats. I do not see how they do that. It's going to be very interesting to see how they survive coming up to the next, obviously, general election. But this will not play well. This will not play well. Many of these in these new seats and part of their new voter base are among those voters, this isn't going to play well with them. Jonathan Reynolds, the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, said this: the government is gifting payouts to those they do not deem competent enough to be in government while cutting the incomes of millions of people. It is an insult to hardworking people. It is deeply regrettable that the Conservatives have chosen not to protect struggling families from the Prime Minister's £1,000 a year cut. Labour is on the side of the working families, and we will keep pushing for the government to see sense. Listen to the House and cancel this cut. Kit Mulhouse remains as the Minister for Justice. So Downing Street, now I have Boris Johnson will attend the cabinet. So he's staying on. Nigel Adams there we are. Nigel Adams has been appointed again Minister of Portfolio in the Cabinet Office. Say he was previously a Foreign Office Minister. Simon Clarke appointed the Chief Secretary to the Treasurer. He's also going to attend cabinet. Michael Dolan remains Education Minister, but will also attend cabinet. Number 10 says. Sula Braverman remains Attorney General. Not surprising. Lise Mogg remains Lord President of the Council and Leader of the House of Commons. Not surprising again that he kept his job. Like I say, we'll have to see what happens. I think personally, if Boris goes, I think he will do something. I think he might make a move. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Like I say, Mogg has had said in the past he would like to be Prime Minister. Whether he will go for it, we don't know. Like I say, all depends. Like I say, we've got a potential Tory civil war coming, which is going to be fantastic to watch. And if Boris Johnson goes, there is going to be an almighty fight for who replaces him. So, like I say, Jacob Mogg retains his seat. Richard Adams, the new Education Secretary in Dalmasari, says he's honoured to be working for the Department of Education in his new role. Children and young people have had a tough time during this pandemic. I'll be listening to them and their families to accelerate our work to build back better and fairer. From my own experience, I know what a beacon of opportunity this country can be, and I want all children, young and adults to have access to brilliant education, the right to qualifications, the opportunity to secure good jobs. That's both vital for them and our economy. Is on important role now than more than ever. Can't wait to get started. Working with amazing teachers and staff. Cool. Blah, 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 blah. Again, typical welcome to the party, essentially. Boris Johnson has tweeted that concludes today's cabinet reshuffle, so no one else is going to be reshuffled. Again, interesting. Again, what we've said before, potentially a groundwork for general election. We'll get into that in a bit, maybe. So Boris Johnson has laid the groundwork for the next general election with a very ruthless reshuffle designed to clear out failing ministers and hand Michael Gove the key job for making levelling up a reality for sceptical voters. On a day of very dramatic developments in Westminster, Johnson sacked 3 cabinet ministers, including the gaffe-prone Education Secretary Gavin Williamson, shifted Dominic Raab from the Foreign Office to the Ministry of Justice. Liz Truss, the media-savvy darling of the Conservative grassroots members and champion of free markets, will replace Raab as Foreign Secretary. Again, full story there. We might get into that in a bit. In fact, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was it 2 minutes ago. To tell you what, we'll finish off with this then. We will finish off with this. So, Boris Johnson has laid the groundwork for the next general election with a very ruthless campaign. Oh, we've just read that. Boris Johnson kicked off his reshuffle by inviting ministers set to be sacked or sidelined to his House of Commons office, while MPs began to debate called by Labour over a £20 universal credit cut coming into effect next month. Williamson had widely been expected to offer offered an alternative role, perhaps his old post as chief whip, but instead was dispatched straight to the backbenchers. Like I say, Robert Buckland, easily the biggest surprise out of all this. Very, very big surprise out of all this. Raab managed to wrest a very consolation title of the Deputy Prime Minister from Johnson after very fraught negotiations, but his move to the Justice Secretary was widely seen as a punishment for his role in the chaotic evacuation from Afghanistan last month. Number 10 appeared to signal its determination to continue prosecuting the culture wars with the surprise appointment of Nadine Dorries as Culture Secretary. Dorries is a very long-standing, vehement critic of the BBC, arguing against the continuation of the licence fee and labelling it institutionally skewed. In 2018, she called it a biased left-wing organisation, which is seriously failing in its political representation from the top down. Oh, my word. Oh, my word. You can go look this up. There are independent sources on this that verify more. The BBC has put more right-wing people on for just sheer airtime than left-wing people. The fact that, the BBC's got a left-wing bias. No. It is easily, incredibly, like the most centrist news organisation. It keeps. The BBC loves its neutrality. It's damned by the left by being it's too right, and it's damned by the right for being too left. That is the situation the BBC is in. It's damned if it does, damned if it doesn't. Downing Street sources insisted that the former I'm a Celebrity contestant had not been put in place to pursue an anti-woke agenda. I'm sure we'll find out very soon. Describing her as a rising star who could communicate well with the public and had been consistently loyal to the Prime Minister. In the Department of Education, Williamson will replace Madine Mousawi, the Iraq-born entrepreneur who arrived in the UK as a child speaking no English. Sawari is viewed as a very safe pair of hands in Downing Street after his management of the COVID-19 vaccination programme. Gove emerged from the reshuffle as the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, with the responsibility for enacting Johnson's levelling up agenda across the government. In July, the Prime Minister gave a speech on levelling up that was widely decried as lacking any concrete policies, and Tory MPs in the so-called Red Wall seats are very anxious about whether they can actually make good on their promises to former Labour voters. Again, they won't. They won't, basically. They absolutely won't. It's not going to happen. Gove will also have a job of trying to defuse the row over radical planning reforms, which have also sparked a very backlash in the traditional Tory seats, like his own Surrey-on-Heath, where he will also remain in charge of protecting the union and fighting elections. Johnson's official spokesperson said that the reshuffle was the second part of the plan to relaunch government strategy following the winter plan for the COVID announcement on Tuesday. The PM set out his plan for managing COVID during the autumn and winter and said the British government must also redouble our efforts to deliver on the people's priorities. The PM will be appointing ministers on Wednesday afternoon with a focus on uniting and levelling up the whole country. Gove will take on the role from Robert Jerrick, who was unexpectedly a victim of Johnson's cull of unpopular ministers. And that was really it. Most of the people, bar Buckland, were very unpopular in the Conservative grassroots organisation. Very unpopular. You've got to wonder if that's the reason why they went, because they were unpopular. Might be very well. Might be very well what happened. Ryan Shorthouse, the chief executive of the Conservative think tank Bright Blue, said Johnson appeared to be rewarding those who are good at publicity and removing those who had overwhelmingly negative or no media for their work. Raab had been demoted for Afghanistan. William departs because of exams and assessment. Jerrick for planning reforms. Buckland for relative silence, he said. Robert Buckland, the former Justice Secretary, who was also moved aside to make room for Raab, stressed in his resignation letter that the justice system was suffering from years of underfunding. Again, a jab, heavy jab at Johnson there. Justice is beyond price, and as a government, we should always be prepared to invest in it, he said. Oliver Dowden, who is trusted by Downing Street, has been given the job of overhauling the Tories' election fighting machine as party co-chair after the recent by-election defeats in Chesham and Amersham and Batley and Spen. Several very high-profile ministers who had been tipped for a move, including the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, Leader of the House of Commons, Jacob Rees-Mogg, and of course the Welsh Secretary, Simon Hart, remain currently in their posts. Patel's allies had also signalled in advance that she would resist any attempt to move to put her in a less prominent role. I think that might have happened because earlier on the day we got news that Patel was not happy, so that might be why. Johnson frequently touts her as tough on crime stance, joking in a recent launch for business donors that she was turning the UK into the Saudi Arabia of penal policy. Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. The wide-ranging reshuffle barely improved the gender balance in Johnson's cabinet, with the number increasing from 6 to 7. However, with more junior posts set to be filled tomorrow, Downing Street sources insisted that the full picture would look more balanced. Raab tweeted that he was delighted to have been offered the post of Justice Secretary, but allies said that he was deeply frustrated to have missed the opportunity to announce a new security alliance between the UK, the US, and Australia. So that's what's being currently being announced in a bit. He has also been involved in developing for months. Truss is now expected to join the Prime Minister in travelling to the US for talks next week. Sir Bob Neill, the Tory MP who chairs the Commons Justice Select Committee, criticised Buckland's filing, saying that he deserved better and was shabbily treated. I can see no good reason for it all, he said, adding that Buckland was doing a good job as Justice Secretary and crucially understood the constitutional importance of the Lord Chancellor as guardian of the justice system. And he was entirely loyal to the Prime Minister. The reshuffle came as Johnson and his team hope they have emerged from the worst of the COVID pandemic and can focus on domestic reform. Though the autumn and winter plan they published on Tuesday included Plan B, contingency measures that may come into the force in the event that the NHS appears to be at risk of being overwhelmed, amid warnings that the country at the moment is in a pivot point. The next general election is due to be in 2024 or even potentially sooner. Johnson must find a way of reassembling the coalition of traditional Tory voters and former Labour switchers that coalesced behind his Get Brexit Done message back in 2019. And again, he's going to have huge difficulties actually doing that if one does get called. Like I say, I think this has, again, potentially set the groundwork for potential next general election. The Tories are now lagging behind the polls, and essentially Boris has gone and replaced all the unpopular ministers in the Tory party and Buckland, for a bizarre reason, with those who are more popular in the party. That's essentially it. This was essentially a popularity contest. There's no question about it. It was a popularity contest, plain, pure, and simple. Are these people going to be any good in their job? Absolutely not. Liz Truss is going to flounder completely as Foreign Secretary. It will only take a serious disaster, again, like Afghanistan, and we'll see just how bad she performs. Dominic Raab has consistently spoken out against human rights. He has consistently criticised and said that he's going to go after, quote, activist judges. Again, we don't have that here in the UK. It's not a thing. This is something that, again, has been imported over from the US. That's going to cause definite serious problems. And with Buckland on the backbenchers, there's now someone with real potential experience to really speak out against anything that Raab does. And again, someone who was very well liked and very well respected in the Tory party. So, with that, like I say, we are approaching 9 o'clock. And like I say, I know Max has got a live stream probably starting in a couple of minutes. So, go. But before you do go, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, do that Twitch thing. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. So as always, thank you very much all for watching this evening. We'll see you hopefully maybe on Saturday morning for a good morning walk. Like I say, as always, now, unfortunately, it's very much weather dependent on the morning walk. We'll have to see. But if not, I will see you on Saturday. If not, like I say, do remember to click that bell button to see more uploads this week, more about British politics, more about Brexit and the ongoings in this, because I'm pretty sure this reshuffle is going to have some echoes from further down the line. Like I say, I do not think that Robert Buckland being sacked is going to go down well. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow in the papers. But as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed your stay. Like I say, please do remember to hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, we'll see you all next time.